chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and FreedomSlips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, FreedomSlips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Hello, my friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. Thank you for joining us tonight. So tonight we're going to take in some calls and give us some calls and let us know what you guys want to talk about. There's a lot to talk about, that is for sure. Where do you start with everything that's happening? I guess today we should start in Greece with the fires that we've seen there. And that's the first video I did today, was all about the fires in Greece. And so many of you guys are saying these are directed energy weapons. So many. I mean, I'm surprised actually reading through the comments that it seems like probably 60-70% of you guys think it's directed energy weapons, just like what happened, and I'm doing the quotation mark sign in the air in California and last year with all the fires that we saw out in the West. So what do you guys think? Do you think that's what's going on here? Are we becoming really, really cynical? Or are we waking up? Which one is it? Maybe it's both. But for sure, those fires are intense. And as is the case with what we saw out in the U.S. and the West, in California, for instance, there's a lot of houses being destroyed. There's a lot of cars that are just wiped out. And, many people are calling attention to the fact that there's not a lot of trees burning, where it seems like there's, houses and cars destroyed. So you guys, give a call in. Let me know what you want to talk about. We do have open lines. Again, it's 614-400-5835. It's 614-400-5835. And give a call in and let's see what you guys want to talk about today. You want to talk about Greece? Do we want to talk about the earthquake swarm that's going on off of the coast of Oregon and Northern California? Do we want to talk about, now we had a 5.6 eruption at Kilauea, so that's the highest one we've had for quite a while. And so it seems to be ramping up a little bit, as well as some quakes going on that could really be magma. And talking to you guys, many of you out there do think that there could be an eruption as well at Mauna Loa, and that some of these quakes, like me, I also think the same thing, that these could be indicative of magma movement. And hello, caller, you're on the air. Who do we have with us?
Beth from Trinidad and Tobago.
Hey, how are you doing today?
Fine, thank you. Good night to you.
Good night to you.
I'm picking you up on something you said earlier on this week in one of your videos about the two sons.
Yeah.
Remember in one of your videos earlier on this week, you spoke about something about, and you said if anyone had any vision or anything concerning the two sons?
Yes, I do remember mentioning that, and it's funny that you say that because a friend told me to check out a video today from somebody called Aluna Ash, who is a psychic, and she just had a dream about the moon being taken away, 3 days of darkness, 3 days and nights of darkness, and then there's going to be two suns in the sky, according to the dream she had today. Have you had those type of dreams?
Well, I had two visions also, and I'm going to go into details with two with you, and then I'm going to tell you something physically about the two sons.
Please do.
The two sons, the first vision that I got was where there was, it felt like almost like the entire place went in darkness. Like all the electricity across the earthly realm got knocked out instantly, and the earth was in total darkness. And then a voice said, look up. And when I look up, I saw like a crystal cover start to unlock. So a first crystal cover unlock, and then a second crystal cover unlock, and then I continued to look upwards, like upwards into the sky. And then a light beam out of the sky. But first the light was like in darkness, and the darkness of the light became bright. And it bright, you know, that you normally would say the brightest star, but it's not really a star. The light starts beaming and it coming like really rapidly towards Earth. And as it comes closer and closer to Earth, it felt like almost like energetic, like a laser or something of that sort. But it was on, and it was beaming onto my body, and it's only my area alone that I am living right now. It was beaming into. And I began to get scared in my vision, and I ran off from the spot. And then I heard a voice said, stand your ground. And then I came back under the light, and the light continued to move rapidly closer to Earth. And then I decided to run off again because it's coming faster and closer to me. And as I run away from the light, somebody said, stand your ground, and I came back onto the light. And Michael, that light beamed into my crown chakra, and it beamed into my body. And when it beamed, you know, like a Christmas tree lit up with all the different colors. It lit up like a Christmas tree. You were seeing like green coming out of my body, like the orange coming out of my body, yeah, all the different colors that comes on a Christmas light. That's the first part of my vision. With the second sun now, it's like almost like a dome, a crystal dome came down over my home. And when the crystal dome fell down over my home, I was seeing people on the outside, but they couldn't see me on the inside. And then there was a lot of helicopters from international like soldiers. And the soldiers were given the order to come down over the dome, to inspect the dome, to see where the dome came from. And as each soldier came down, the dome will just electrify them. They just vanished. And when the final soldier came down and he got electrified, then those who were driving the helicopters asked, is everybody okay? And then all the helicopters vanished. That was my vision of the two sons. I decided to start to ask questions. If any pastor or any religious person could explain my visions to me. And there was no one who could explain it in my country. But it had one gentleman who I supposedly said he's a pastor. He's religious. And I want everyone out there to understand. Religion and spirituality is not the same, Michael. Religion is totally different to spirituality. Spirituality is when we are connected to ourselves, when we are connected to the one who gave us the breath of life. It has nothing to do with religion. Religion is man-made. Spirituality is not man-made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually, what you have just said is so similar to what the other psychic I just read today. Pretty much the same sort of thing, and that light is going to be what triggers the event in each one of us, and like the splitting of realities, to where there's like a 5D reality and a 3D reality, basically, you know, two different realities totally, with some people on one side, some people on the other.
Thank you. And you know what, when I do my meditation and I get that the intuition, like I get messages coming into me by my ringing of my ears, because my ears, my left ears or my right ears would usually ring, and then I will sit still, and then I will hear a voice delivering messages to me. And when one of the messages I got is that there are two type of people on the earthly realm right now. They are chosen and unchosen already. The chosen people will hear and understand the knowledge like yourself. And the unchosen people, no matter what you say to them, they will always be doubting and looking for an argument. And I've been realizing that in my daily walk of life right now. Because no matter what you say to some people, there will always be an argument. They will always tell you what they don't understand, and they will always say you're a liar. Because they don't understand spirituality is real. It's a real side of our life. It has nothing to do with nothing else. More than you have to find yourself in spirituality, and meditation gets you there.
Exactly. Yeah, you have to go within for yourself instead of just trusting what somebody else is telling you. You must experience it yourself.
Correct, correct. But it's a
Exactly.
wonderful experience. I will tell you something that happened to me a while back, a couple of years ago. I was in Russia. I was in Russia at one time 6 months. And while I was in Russia and I goes out like into their cities, it has Russia for me to for anybody out there to understand, let me explain one thing. You see the Russian people, they are highly spiritual. When I mean spiritual, Michael, they are a dose of spirituality that we won't even begin to be. They are amazed hearing coming from their mouth. Hear what a Russian will do to you. If you walk in Russia, a Russian will just identify with you. They never saw you before, but they will read you. Read you mean they will tell you who you are. And years ago when they did that to me, I was shocked. But I don't doubt anything. As a person, I like to investigate. I like to look for information. I like to do my research. So even though they said certain things to me, I won't doubt them. I just smiled and I said thank you. And day after day, they will say to me, it's going to happen to you. That's long before I even know anything about spirituality, because I was into religion, baptized and all that sort. And then when I came down to Haiti now, the same thing was said to me in Haiti also. I asked one of my co-workers, I said at that time, because I was working abroad, I said, do Russians said that to me back up in Russia 6 months ago. Now I came down to Haiti, the same thing is being said to me. I wonder what this, and I asked other Haitian guy who was my co-worker, and he smiled and he said, yes, you are. You're going to get there and you're going to have your own experiences. Yes, you are. And gradually, day by day, right now, as I am into meditation, these things are gradually happening. It's real. And about the two suns in reality, when I look up into the sky, they are there. Reality, physiology, Michael. When I look up into the sky, I would see those two suns, but they are not suns. That's the feminine energy and the masculine energy. If we keep saying they are suns, we will never get to the source of who they are. That's the feminine energy and the masculine energy, full of life up there. And a lot more than that, once you're into spirituality and you get to know inside of itself, we are totally electricity.
Yes, I was just saying that to a friend that ultimately we are electric. You know, that's what we are.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. And we are full of auras.
Yes.
The only people who are not full of no auras is the unchosen people. Once you start finding yourself, you will realize. And you see, by people touching your hands, shaking your hands, tapping you on your head, especially your forehead. Do not make no one touch your forehead.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that so much. The timing was perfect because it is the right time for us to discuss that. And as I was talking about Aluna Ash before, she was concerned that it could be something that's actually going to transpire or get started even in the eclipse that's coming on the 27th. So she just felt like she had to get it out there, and I found her to be really, really engaging and insightful. And again, thank you so much, dear sister, for giving a call.
My pleasure, my pleasure. We'll be talking to you soon. And as chat, thank all those people out there in chat who are part of the EEA family. I thank them very much for their inspiration and the love they've been sending me. Thank you very much to chat. Big up to chat right now.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Namaste.
Thank you.
Okay. That was a very interesting call. And who do we have with us now?
Hey, Michael. My name's James. How are you?
Good. How you doing, James?
Good. So, I'm going to tell you right out of the gate, this is not my, I'm calling because of, it's being called to call into the show. I've been listening to you for a little while. This is definitely not my thing. As of 2 years ago, I was a police officer. And something happened in my life where it completely changed in one moment. And basically, the only reason I'm calling in is I'm quite shy. This is a crazy incident. It was terrifying. It was all kinds of things. It's completely changed my life. But I'm being guided to call in because I think you probably have people listening and watching your videos that have a hard time believing that the average person can change overnight, and I would almost call it spontaneous human evolution. If you follow me so far.
Yeah, no, and I believe it could happen, definitely.
Well, like I said, I was an ex-police, or I'm an ex-police officer now, and I'll tell you exactly what happened to me. Give people some hope or some, understanding how it could look if you're interested in hearing it.
Sure, most definitely.
Okay, so I was, I'd had a couple of really bad months of work where I'd seen some horrific things. I've been prescribed lots of drugs, as far as Adderall, and then of course something to put me to sleep, and, I wasn't getting into anxiety drugs or anything like that. Was a pretty heavy drinker and was trying to deal with my problems that way. I was atheist, didn't believe in God. But the emotion, like the sadness, just was building so much. I turned to meditation, and I happened to be in the middle of our house at the time. Interestingly enough, was a closed-off room with no windows, and no, like complete darkness. And what I'm referring to there is how the pineal gland can be activated through lights and then darkness. And none of this I knew at the time. But anyways, I had a very intense energy come up during the meditation, and I thought, oh, geez, that felt a little better. And I basically went to lay back on my bed, and my life changed from there. I felt an electric jolt that shot me out of my body. And I'll keep this short because it's a very long story, but I was given a life review. At the end of the life review, I stood in front of the Sphinx and the pyramids, and I was given the choice to leave my life, and then I saw myself laying in my bed, and my son and my wife would have found me that way. And we were a family of 3 that was completely asleep prior to this. So I said back conversely to the Sphinx that, I'm not leaving them this way. It told me something very private, and then it said, do not attach yourself to symbols. And I was stuffed back in my body. Now understand, I'd never had any experience like this. And during this experience, it was like the electricity was still shooting through my body, and we are definitely electric beings, there's no question. I'd had kidney stone issues, and I'd had major surgeries to stop it, and it was actually successful. But during this time, I shot out, like I wet my bed, which, this is why I didn't want to call in and tell you this, but this is the truth. And I got rid of hundreds of kidney stones. And this is where the story turns really, this is the part that led me to believe that this didn't just happen in my head after meditating. So this thing gives me the information of do not attach yourself to symbols. And then I wake up, then I open my eyes, and I thought it was under my own control that I was standing up and putting my feet onto the ground, like, twisting off my bed. But it wasn't. I was trying to stop myself. I grabbed the sheets, my body got up and walked towards my door and opened my door without, it's like something had control of my body. I was absolutely terrified. It's like being trapped. It's like my body was walking and my consciousness was just trapped inside and had absolutely no control. It was 1:33 in the morning. I had that. So it walked me to the bottom of my stairs. I grabbed the door, trying to hold on, then I grabbed the railing, just as luck would have it, because I was an atheist, constant skeptic, that kind of thing. This thing that woke me constantly shows me and gives me reason to not doubt this. So that being, I'm buck naked, I'm a police officer, and my son and his friend, about he was 16 at the time, sitting at the computer as I walk by, grabbing onto the wall, and then my son sees me go out the door naked, so he gave me a witness, essentially is what I'm saying. I was walked out onto the lawn. My head was twisted back into that position, and this is going to be like an energetic position in the body where the disturbing, I know, but how Jeffrey Dahmer put his victims. I was bent into that position, or what Podesta has for art, you could say. I was bent into that position. I felt a jolt of electricity again. I dropped to my knees. I stumbled back into the house. I cried for 3 days. And from then on, I can say that I've seen things that make me understand that, first of all, remote viewing and psychics and all that kind of stuff are very clearly real, that there are already things on this planet that are absolutely from somewhere else, many of them walking right among us, much like the movie They Live.
Mm-hmm.
And that something huge is, something is already here, and something's coming. Like I believe we've entered into a 7-year tribulation. I've been given all these visions, and the reason, sorry to get a little confused, the reason the synchronicity tonight was, I always listen to your show, and I always say, if there's something that says I gotta call in, meaning something rings true with my story. One of the visions I was given was I saw the moon just out of the blue in like virtual reality, and I do have a Oculus Rift VR thing, and it's like virtual reality. I saw the moon back up and then dissipate into the distance, and it was gone. And that's all I saw. But I heard that because I joined just a little bit late, but just as I popped in, that was being said. So that's at first I'd love to hear your opinion or hear what you think. But that's basically it.
Well, that's definitely that's some set of circumstances to go through, and I don't doubt you at all. Everything is electric for sure, and we are surrounded by different beings all the time, and they're not all demons, and there are many people that just view that the world is full of demons, angels, and humans, and then a god. But in reality, there's all sorts of things around us all the time in different dimensions. And when you're able to have an experience like you did, then it's not like anybody can convince you otherwise again, because it's just like, it's like if you were a kid and you snuck down, the steps, and you see mommy and daddy putting presents under the tree, and you don't say anything, and then you get those presents, and okay, there's Santa Claus. It's the same thing. Go ahead. What were you saying?
It completely shifts your paradigm. It changes your understanding forever.
Yeah, it's just changed. So no matter what anybody says to you, you know differently because you've experienced it. And that's what that first caller was talking about, between the difference between religion per se, where you don't actually have an experience. You might have a nice warm feeling and all, and then a spiritual experience. And in the East, in the Hindu system, and in Buddhism, it's self-realization, and it's really recognizing what reality really is, and it really does take going in to kind of have that type of experience. But like you, I'm totally changed now from what I was, and it's been a progressive set of revelations, basically, for me, where with you it was that one, boom, like that, and you're just...
It was, and it's really amazing, and I know it's easy for people to sit and listen, or in the chat room or whatever, and hear it and go, can it really be, like, this guy's gone crazy? But the truth is, I went from being a well-respected police officer, looking forward to promotion and career, and then in an instant, I turned in my gun. I knew there was nothing it could do to ever help anyone. I knew my job was a fraud. The out-of-body experience, like, it was because I'm still the skeptic. I have to ask for proof, which is why I get to be, front row seat to some pretty interesting things sometimes. But it really is amazing to think, and that's why I say this, because I think a lot of people watch your show with hope, like waiting. And I'm not waiting. I actually watch your show to help me along the way, put little things into pieces that I already know, but you've spent much more time thinking about them. You've kind of you've cultivated who you are. Where, like you said, what I got was jammed down my throat, and the reason I believe it was is I believe in 2016, just before Trump got elected, there was some sort of shift, whether it has to do with CERN and the collider, or there was something that changed, because I found so many people who have had a similar experience, and like there's people like Jordan Sather who had 2016 was big for him. He all of a sudden became a Trump supporter, and there's all kinds of guys out there that have started channels. Naughty Beaver, he has the same sort of thing. He was one guy, and then he was another. So that's why I called in, is to say, look, like, there is so many people out there, and really, you've given the advice before, is if people are looking and searching and waiting for that, you know it's going to come, and just ask to be shown. It doesn't matter what religion or what paradigm you follow. Just ask for the truth, and boy, it truly does show up.
I agree. Yeah, religions are really man-made, but spirituality and the reality of the spiritual realm is something that's totally different. And so, we are fallible in this body, and our brain is fallible. The spirit, the higher self, that's something that's on just a much higher wavelength. So, it's just one of those things where you really have to go within and experience it. And then you see, like what you saw, the moon being pulled away. So you're like the third person in just a short period of time that's had this exact same experience and vision. And it's just more and more people are coming out of the woodwork and telling me this. So, and I'm sure we'll have a lot more people now triggered because they've had the same vision, because we do have a collective consciousness together that we're all tapping into, that group consciousness. And, we have that aspect of us which is not the physical, not of this 3D, and can actually get outside of the time-space continuum.
Absolutely. And it's funny, you bring up so many things, but something that I didn't want to miss is this happened to me around a lunar eclipse, right? And I discovered someone who'd written a book. He was on League Project. I can't remember the guy's name, but he literally leads a path. He's written a book on enlightenment, and what he believes is it has just about everything to do with lunar eclipses. And we've got the longest one of the century, of course, coming up here in a couple of days. I can't remember what the guy's name is, the book, nothing like that. I know he's from Vernon in Canada. But if people are looking to get this kind of experience, literally meditating during this upcoming eclipse, and I'm sure you know more about this than I do, actually. I just wanted to bring it up to see what you thought of that, or if you knew that this guy had written a book and says that people can be spontaneously changed or enlightened, just the drop of a hat, and your whole paradigm shifts, and it happens often around these lunar eclipses.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, it's facing the shadow self in so many ways. Like if you look at astrology, the sun sign is kind of the outward person, the outward characteristics, and whereas the moon sign, that's more like the inner workings and what's going on, inside your shadow self and everything. So, this is in some ways us facing our shadow selves, and with ascension and everything going on in that aspect, we're purging. We're constantly purging, basically. We're detoxing physically and spiritually. And if we're not, we're going to be miserable. We really are going to be miserable in this time unless we're constantly doing that.
And another thing about the moon is, and I know you must have, maybe I missed it, but all the science and the physics say that the moon is not a natural object in the first place, right?
Yeah, I have a video on that I should touch on again, but yeah, I'm pretty convinced the moon was placed there, exactly where it is.
I have absolutely no question about it. Like I said, I took my analytical police mind and I put it towards all of these things, whether it was chemtrails, whatever it was, my consciousness was going to stop me, or my the fear, right? But the truth is, this thing that woke me up, I also feeling a spiral constantly in between where my third eye is, which I didn't know anything about. But yeah, I mean, I go through that stuff with a fine-tooth comb. I have a pretty decent understanding of physics, and I can say, oh, you know, what they say about the moon is the math says it shouldn't be there. And I have no doubt in my mind that it's an unnatural object. You know, I don't doubt it even for a second. It's just one of those things that I really have to watch my beliefs now, because sometimes I can really embarrass myself by all of a sudden popping out, you know, a joke in regard to the moon not being real or whatever it is. But yeah, I totally am convinced of so many things, and that's one of them. You know, is that the moon's not a real object, and I think you know, there are witnesses way back, tribes that spoke of a time before the moon.
Yeah, most definitely, and that's part of the fascinating thing about it. So, you know, perhaps, you know, there's so many things going on that really show you the nature of our reality. They had just come out with an article about a week ago that was talking about how really advanced aliens would actually manipulate and move stars and planets in order to harvest their energy. And do you remember seeing that? But
yes, and that is absolutely true. That's the Matrix idea. We're being used as somewhat of an energy source, but there is an escape. You could say you figure the game out, and you don't have to die and repeat.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So it's really just fascinating, because we get these leaks, you know, and they really do. They give us clues all the time to what's really going on.
We live on a soul farm, and you have to understand that and be peaceful before you're going to move on. Now, I have a question for you that I'm hoping you can help me with, because as much as I have seen, things about myself are where the question marks lie. Now, what does that mean to you, the idea of do not attach yourself to symbols? And I want to ask you, because I know you've probably got other colors, and I've yammered for a while, but I wanted to get your opinion on that, if that brings anything to mind.
Well, there's a couple of things that come to mind. You know, one is not to be just drawn into necessarily perhaps like a religious type of experience with it, and just, you know, zoning into one particular aspect. And when I think again to the like the Eastern traditions, they basically ultimately you got to go to source yourself, which is going to be nameless, formless. It's beyond the void. So it's something that you have to go to. Now
oh, God, you might be right. As soon as you say that, I was always thinking symbols in the out 3D world. It might mean don't attach too much symbolism or idea to the Sphinx or the pyramid itself.
Right.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, well, I had not considered that even briefly. That's brilliant, because it really does bother me sometimes, you know, because I have tattoos on me. I was an undercover cop for a while, and it's some symbolism stuff actually it's pretty creepy. Like, I have no idea about what the one eye thing is, but I know it means something, probably something in regard to the pineal gland, the hemispheres of the brain. But I know those symbols, those Illuminati things, I know they really do. Like, you know, Donald Trump talking, when he makes those are energetic signatures with the hand, and it causes people to fall into a state, you could say. So
for
symbolism, it just is incredible. It's just blown my mind, and that's a total. I mean, I just assumed that the Sphinx and the pyramids are the things really that we can see that clearly we didn't make them. We figured out now that their power stations should have been a gold cap on the top, all that kind of stuff. I just figured that it was either it was God's face on the Sphinx, you know, but the Sphinx's face just had light coming out of it. Because I could look around, it was like being in VR. It was the most incredible thing ever. But but anyways, that helped. I appreciate that. That's a totally different way to look at it.
Yeah, there's so many layers to things too. And before I let you go to grab another caller, this was a great call. Lots of interesting stuff we were talking about. But when you brought up the eye, like the all-seeing eye, so automatically, right, we're conditioned to look at that and think, oh, that's the Illuminati symbol. They're watching us. But the other level of that is that it is representing the pineal gland, which is so important for our escape from this reality where they have us controlled. and limited, because when our pineal gland is activated, then we can see right through all their lies and BS. And so it's two sides of the same coin.
True. And you know what precedes this? Remember I mentioned my kidneys?
Right.
If I was to get that kind of proof, I could, because I have the doctor's name. He said, I don't know what to tell you, but your kidney stones are coming from higher than your kidneys. My dad died of Alzheimer's. He was a cop. I've been leaking kidney stones until this event, and then I flushed them. My pineal gland was being calcified. I was a diet crop drinker. I was drinking 3 rock stars a night. I used to eat meat. I'm totally vegan now. So yes, the secret that's why I mentioned the dark room, right? Because in the pyramid, in the Great Pyramid, they put people in there, and you know, like, what's the fella that was said to be short and angry? The French guy. He couldn't spend a night in the pyramid, and there's been lots of people that tried, and they just couldn't do it. It's because it causes you to experience the dark night of the soul. You get your life review.
Yes.
Which, by the way, I believe is what CERN did when they opened up that portal and they got the response back, Tekel. It says you've been judged and found wanting, or I don't know if you. That would be an interesting show for you, or part of your show sometime to cover, because they literally did open a portal in 2016, and back to the Bilderberg group was the response, and it was Tekel, and that's ancient. I can't remember what the language is, but it means you've been judged and found deficient, actually. So it just, the pineal gland literally is a gateway, a stargate for the consciousness to zip in and out. I have no doubt about it. No doubt about it.
Yeah, for sure. That is the key. So yeah, keep up with your meditation, and focus on balancing your energies, drawing light down through the crown chakra, and you could visualize it as a crystalline light coming from above, and just on the inhale draw it on down and just pull it through the entire body, through every chakra, send it into the earth, and then on the next inhale that you send it into the earth as you exhale, on the next inhale pull it back up, mixed in with the earth energies. And you could repeat that process, and it'll ground you, but it'll also cleanse every chakra in your body with that cosmic light, and then also nourish the physical body with the energy from the earth.
Awesome. I appreciate that very much, because that is something that I've gone through some of your stuff, but it's hard to, that gives me a good visual.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for the call, brother.
All right, man. You take care, and you do a great job. You got a great show.
Thank you. Namaste. So that was an awesome call. That was a really great call. I want to thank him for that. And is this KJ?
Hey, Michael, it's KJ, New York City.
Hey, how you doing, KJ?
I'm doing good, brother. How are you?
I'm doing real good. Doing real good. Lots of interesting stuff happening. What you feel like talking about tonight?
Well, what I would like to talk about is the perfect storm of events that we are basically ascending into at this time. We have the longest lunar eclipse coming. We have the planetary alignment that is officially started with all the planets essentially on the right side of the sun. And not to mention, one of my favorites, we are entering into Mercury in retrograde, all at the same exact time, literally within days of each, of these events. It's all going to be occurring at the same time, and that type of energy and things, it's definitely a doozy, to put it lightly. And of course, I think that there's going to be some pretty serious effects, both physically as well as, spiritually. I've been hearing lately a lot of people that have been starting to, kind of come out of their, enslavement, as I put it, or their indoctrination self. And it's great to hear that last call that you had. I mean, especially somebody who was in the world that he was in, being a police officer, which, for all the money in the world, I wouldn't want that job personally. But then again, I've been, I've been awoke, and for so long. Thank God, that was never something I would want to put myself in. But there's some intense energy occurring, and there's going to be some serious, just ascension that we're kind of going into right now. And it's going to be interesting to see how all these things play out. And of course, we see what's going on weather-wise, and of course what's going on with a lot of the volcanic and earthquake activity, which is definitely upticking. This summer is going to be pretty intense, because most of all this is happening pretty much from the 25th of July until the first week of September. As far as Mercury retrograde, as well as the planetary alignment. So it's going to be pretty intense, pretty interesting. We all know what's happening. We all know what's going on. Well, I would only hope and pray that, people will definitely, and put it bluntly, wake the hell up. Because at this point, if you're really not tuning into what's going on all around us, whether it's natural, unnatural, political, religious, there is definitely a ramping up of everything, it seems, coming in all directions. And you've got to be really aware and really, I think, in tune. For some people, meditation, I say, better meditation than medication. And that for some people is definitely helpful, But I think that for other people that are just so already with what's going on and enlightened and understand, it's actually pretty intense. I know it is for me, and I'm sure it is for you, because you're reporting on this stuff on a daily basis. It's kind of like that officer was saying, he witnessed some really intense and I'm sure horrific things that, unfortunately, for most people, it takes a rude awakening to have any kind of awakening. It's unfortunate, but, as long as they can come out of it on the positive side of it, whatever it takes, God bless them.
Yeah, I think you said it perfectly. We are really witnessing a perfect storm. We really are. It's been amazing to see this. It's every day all over the place. And
and it's just, and even where I am here, we're like right now, just like I said, and I know I mentioned it before, as far as storms go, like we're getting just these intense rainfalls that have it's never been like this. Like right now in Pennsylvania, they're getting like completely flooded out. They had to shut down Hershey, Pennsylvania, the whole big resort, that whole region is just completely underwater right now, and it's just really bizarre. And then, the same thing happened in Vietnam and Laos, and just everywhere it seems like, and then you've got the wildfires in Greece. Greece is a nightmare because, sadly, there were, guys trying to put out, acre-large fires with garden hoses. I saw a lot of that video, but again, it's a perfect storm, and when that perfect storm, again, going to that point, when it happens, you've got to really be on your SHIT, if you know what I mean, because things can be coming at you from different directions, and it's good to meditate, it's good to spend time, getting that, inward stuff going on, but you also really need to be outwardly prepared and, ready for just about anything, because we are right now, and like I keep saying, this is just the kind of the first inning, unfortunately, for most people, and it's good to see a lot of people. I've noticed in the last couple months, a lot more people are definitely getting more enlightened, or at least tuning in, to what's going on, because it's they can no longer hide it in the media. Now, at least, these storms and these events are getting more national coverage, which is important, because unless people really see it, I can tell somebody a story and they're like, oh, come on, really? So at least that's happening, but I just think it's really important. We are, we're leaving one astrological era into another, which has a lot to do with water. So it's kind of fitting and ironic.
Yeah.
It seems like there's these intense water events that are occurring. But again, like I said, I would just hope everyone is just, tuned in and understanding what's going on, just not where you are, but where everyone is. Because we are a collective energy. If we can just get to that level and kind of get on each other's equal, thought process and track, I truly believe that. It's like an energy that you can create, you can tap into with other people. As a former DJ, I used to do that professionally, and that's, part of it. I would tap in and get that energy from the crowd and read them, and we'd play off of each other. It's the same thing with all human beings. Everyone is, capable of tapping into these energies that are within all of us. Unfortunately, most people are so closed off to it because they've just been indoctrinated in the world we live in. And they just, they're just like these 9-to-5 robots that just think, this is my life, this is the world, this is the way it is, don't question, don't ask, just go about your business and blah, blah, blah. And that's just not real. It's really not the real world. The real world is definitely more surreal, and it's a little more intense, but I can honestly say, in my experiences, the more tuned in you are, the more tapped into you are, your energy and the energies around you, I mean, you can pretty much will anything, especially if it's positive. And, that's kind of been my experience.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I agree for sure. And we had, I remember there was a little discussion going on in the comments section where like one subscriber said, praying for people, send money, that'll actually do something. But prayers do work. I mean, we've learned so much from quantum physics, and we understand now when we look at some aspects of science why the things that we thought were mystical actually work. But it's, the things that are mystical, there's really nothing mystical about it. It's just science we don't understand yet,
Right.
in the masses. But it's all just the way the universe works. And
Right.
we know from like the double slit experiment, it's all about the observer and it's about intention. And so we could still change things. I really do believe we can change things. And perhaps the reality that you could change is your reality. So,
Right.
and we're going to perhaps split, like the first caller was talking about, and some of the other two have talked about this, splitting other realities into two groups where one is going to get an Armageddon scenario completely.
Yeah.
And because that's really, really what they believe is going to happen. And the other is going to get basically that Garden of Eden, new heaven, new earth that they're expecting, heaven on earth. So, we're each going to end up getting what we're expecting according to our expectations and intent.
Yeah. Well, we had this great saying, and it applies now on so many different levels now. You attract what you feel you deserve.
Right.
And we used to say that about people, just even in the most basic of things like relationships. So when somebody would be in a relationship with some terrible person, you're like, well, you're complaining about it, but it's clearly what you've attracted. So maybe that's what you deserve. And it's the same thing, just in all levels of energies. As myself, I'm a Christian, and that doesn't mean I'm a religious fanatic. But it also means that I apply my prayer system, my system, even to my job. Like when I go to do what I do, and my assistant, and if we have a really tough task ahead of us, I'm like, bro, let's just take a moment to pray on this. And he's with it too. And it's funny. It's like we do our little prayer. We even jokes about it because it's still we're doing it in a lighthearted manner. We mean it. But we're not like I say, we're not some religious nuts that, have to do things like, that's why when I see like certain aspects of some people's religions, like where they're like forced to do certain things at certain times on certain days, I'm like, man, I'm sorry. I get that you're religious and that's great, but it's like you've just jumped into just another form, another constraint of like this enslaved mindset, mentality. too many other actions to get to God and to tap into these energies that are present all around us. And naturally, as a person, as a human being, you have the ability. I mean, I've willed everything completely pretty much my whole life, and other than just wanting it and working towards it and having a positive energy and mindset about it, I've been able to do, these things that I set out to do. And I think that's where people should just start with. It's really not as difficult as it seems. I think the hardest part for most people is letting go of their former life. That's got to be difficult.
I think part of the biggest problem is that we almost get to the point where some terms are they're used in different ways. They have different meanings for different people, and they've been so used for so long that it gets too general. Like to say that you're a Christian, it really can mean so many different things to some people, because I know a lot of Hindu people, for instance, that are great Christians. They really are great Christians, and some people that are from different backgrounds, but they are completely Christians in that they follow the actual teachings of Christ. And whereas I know people that I've had friends that are quote unquote Christians, but then they don't live Christian lives because they're doing things that are some cases they've done things that are just wrong, but they think because they have said some words that it's all going to just go away, and they don't have to actually really have the love of Christ in their heart. And instead of they'll just let it come right out, and if somebody irritated them, they'll just go and try to irritate them or get back at them. So that's the Old Testament mentality of an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, as opposed to letting it go and showing love and compassion and realizing, oh, well, they got me mad, but they're probably having a bad day. I can understand, they have this going on. It's okay. I'm not going to give that energy back. Just to bring up another comment today, there was somebody that said something, and then one of our regulars that's always like so wonderfully positive got a little irritated, which was natural, and then she came right back and said, you know what, I apologize, because we could agree to disagree. And I was like, that's beautiful, because sometimes when we know you really want to respond, but sometimes you're better off not. I mean, and you just don't want to spiral that negative energy ever. You just have to let it go.
You're absolutely right. It's funny you say that, because you know me, and I've been calling in, and I really appreciate your channel show. And sometimes even if I'll go on the chat, I'm just not a guy. I clearly am who I am. I'm clearly an opinionated human being, but with that, I respect everyone the same way that I would expect to be respected. So I'm not that guy. I'm not a confrontational guy. I'm not that guy. I don't shoot other people down. To me, it's just, again, it's a form of energy. And it's like, it's such a waste of, you only have so much energy, okay? And to waste your energy, your time, your thought process on, taking someone else down or talking bad about what somebody's saying, right there, you've proven to me that they got you. So you're in the trap. They got you. So they got you there. They already got you locked in. They got you locked into believing, okay, this is this religion. This is how it works. This is how you pray. This is how you confess your sins. This is what you do for your penitence. It's like, that's the same mindset. It's the same type of person. And I would just hope and pray. I mean, to me, everything, I like to make light of stuff. Now, I'm a big guy. If you saw me in person, you would not think that I am this lighthearted, easygoing type of guy. But I find that it's so much better, even when something stressful is happening, when something bad may be happening. So I live in New York City. Perfect example, I get on the subway the other morning with my assistant, and all of a sudden some guy comes up screaming early in the morning on the train. He wants to be a preacher, or, subway car preacher. Wow, really loud. And I'm like, whoa, this is not right here, and this other guy was really mad. He wanted to kill the guy, because it's like 8 in the morning. Nobody wants to hear the person yelling.
Right.
So, my whole approach is, I just kill them with kindness. So I try, I joke with the guy, and then the guy, he got frustrated. He walked away from me. He went to his whole spiel, and he said, "Can I get an amen?" Nobody on the call said a word. So of course, he turned around, "Amen, brother." And he's like, "Not from you." But it was just that everybody just broke up laughing because it was sad. Because here's this older gentleman, and he's and I give him, an A for effort, because, you're trying to preach the word and blah, 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 but the way you're going about it and your anger and your just closed offness to even other people and humor, and that doesn't work. It just doesn't work. You've got to be an open vessel for things to come to you. In order to receive the gifts of the universe, you can't go around with a closed fist getting ready to protect yourself or punch somebody in the face. Your hands have to be open. Your heart has to be open. And one of my favorite pictures of Jesus is I have a famous picture of him is laughing Jesus.
There you go.
Jesus to me.
Well, we're going to break now, KJ. But thank you for the call so much. As always, it's a pleasure, brother.
You got it, brother. Have a great night.
You too. Take care, KJ.
Evolutionary Radio at freedomslips.com. We'll be right back after this message.
Enter into a world unseen on Raven Star's Witching Hour. You will encounter eclectic topics from the realm of spirit brought into our matrix of truth. With your host, the Solaris Blue Raven. Solaris will bring you an array of unique guests covering topics from ghostly spirits to amazing anomalies, covert technology, UFOs, and shadowy global events.
That's right here, Revolutionary Radio, freedomslips.com, Saturdays, midnight till 2 a.m. Eastern Time. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Let the magic rise.
This is Barbara DeLong, host of Nightlight Radio, inviting you to join me on a cosmic journey, exploring a metaphysical montage of spiritual material, covering everything from the mundane to the magical, UFOs to unicorns, and everything in between, including spiritual readings for those who seek enlightenment. Let Nightlight provide you with equal measure of light, love and laughter, insight, wisdom, and inspiration. Monday nights, 10 to 12 p.m. Eastern, right here on Studio B, Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Well, thank you everybody for joining me the first hour. That was a great hour. And caller, do we have you on with us now?
It's Shannon Ann from Texas, from Orange. Hello.
Hey, how are you?
I'm okay. I actually have had a really low energy day, so it's been interesting with everything going on. So I've kind of been in bed all day, which is weird for me. I don't usually do that.
No, you know, a lot of people are going through that. We were all going through that. Got to be honest with you guys. Maybe my voice sounds better. I'm hoping it sounds better now because I listened to myself from this morning's video and I was like, God, is that me? Just because I think it's the red tide or the chemtrails, something. You know, there's been so much red tide down here, but everybody is feeling it. Everybody's lethargic, just not feeling right. You know, just very, very tired, and people aren't sleeping well.
Oh, I can't sleep. That's very, very true. I mean, I can be up till 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, get up at 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, and then I'll be fine. And then all of a sudden, like today, I just did not feel good. Like my whole body felt like there's a huge weight on it. Does that make sense? Like just every movement I made was just not working out.
I totally get it. And honestly, the last couple of days, I went back to making sure I'm doing 2 Qigong sessions. And right before I came on, I had a wonderful meditation and did some Qigong, and then it just left. And I feel this is the best I felt now in like 3 or 4 weeks.
Back to meditating and yoga, and I haven't done it in a while, and I know it's needed because for me, I pull energies from other places. Like I'm an empath, and so it helps to control the absorption of energies. So, yeah. It's interesting about those earthquakes today in Oregon. I wanted to talk about that and a couple of other things we've talked about before, but that's a lot of earthquakes that happened in a very short period of time for that area.
Yeah, definitely. And it was so funny because one of the other regulars who has his own earthquake page, he just, like, as soon as I started to do the video, he's calling me basically to say that that's not normal, and it's not. So something's up. We'll see. You know, maybe it's going to die down, but I don't think so. I feel like we're heading into a really wild, maybe 4 or 5 weeks coming up.
I do too. And again, not that I notice all the time earthquakes in Oregon, but since we've been following this and I've been awake more, I you know, that was just alarming to me. But I did post it on my Facebook, and I tagged a lot of my Oregon friends, and someone said, I don't even know who this is, it's a friend of a friend, and she said, I lost track of the time. My geology professor told me to keep an eye after the volcanic activity, something about 6 months after the Hawaii volcano, that we would see an uptick in earthquake activity on the coast and then more inland, is what this person said. And I thought that was interesting. Yeah, so I mean, we know that the Ring of Fire is waking up, and there's earthquakes that have never happened in places that shouldn't be having earthquakes, or, you know, but it's just an interesting time, definitely.
Oh, for sure. And still, you know, I always look at Hawaii, and you know, it's gone up now. The eruptions, we had like 5.2, then 5.3, and then 5.4, and now, you know, it's starting to go up. And also, the thing that struck me, if you saw this morning's video, was those 3 that were all way above sea level and right at the summit of Mauna Loa. And then there was one just off to the side a little bit, but at probably like around 10, 11,000 feet above sea level. So it's, to me, I mean, that's got to be magma movement, and it's been increasing like that. So I would not be surprised to see Mauna Loa start going as well. And that one's got a lot more oomph behind it.
Yeah, I know. It is scary times, and then people who aren't awake, it's just, oh, they had another earthquake out there too. I'm looking at the USGS right now for, you know, off the Oregon coast, and they had a couple more. And they had like 10 right there in a row, which is just really, really strange. I'm sorry, you can tell my energy is low. I can't concentrate right now. And I wanted to say, you know, when you messaged me back earlier when I texted you, I'm into numerology. I'm not like into it, but I look at the synchronicities, and everything that happens around me has always been around numbers. And you text back literally on my birthday at 3/17. So it's just like, that's an interesting, I always notice the little things like that have always been, things that I've noticed. It's, yeah.
I do too. I do too. I mean, automatically, like, so you say 317, so I always think 3 + 1 + 7, 11, 2. So it's just, I always break it down that way. It's part of the training. I used to, I think I've told you guys, like, at one point going way back, I think I was like 18 or 17 and joined the Rosicrucians and got the lessons and everything and started to study that, and and then that led me into studying a lot deeper into the Western mystery tradition and the Kabbalah. And so you get used to correspondences, and you study the planets, you study numerology, and it's how you start to see the matrix for what it is in so many ways. And we really do live in a matrix. It is.
Oh my God! I've got a story for you if you want to hear about the matrix. I didn't know anything about the numerology. I was born, I think, March 17th, 1973, 3:33 in the morning. So I was born at an odd time. All my brothers were born at, like, I have two other brothers, and one was born at 7:33 and one was born at 12:33, literally all on our birth certificate, which was strange. But then later on in life, I noticed that my grandmother was born in 1923. I was born literally 50 years later in 1973. She had her first child at 21, her second child, which was my mother, at 23. One was born in 1944. The other one was born in 1946. 50 years later, I had my first child in 94, and then I had my second child in 96. So literally, my grandmother and my timeline is 50 years, almost within a couple months to the date. And that's odd to me. That's just, who notices that one thing? But
right.
How odd is it that our lives were so synced up? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, the synchronicities. and do you remember back to the old James Redfield, the Celestine Prophecy, that whole series?
Yes, I have the Celestine. I've not read it yet. I've had that book for 10 years.
Oh, wow.
I cannot. I know, and there's something pulling me not to read it, and I don't know why. And probably right now is a good time to read it, actually.
Yeah, and there's so many follow-up ones to it as well, including some that are kind of workbooks, to actually take you through the processes of opening up your mind, and it's great. I mean, I thought that it was really, really great, and it really explains things the way they are, and even with ascension and all, because like if I won't go into it because you're going to have to watch it, but at the end there's really very, very cool scene, having to do with ascension, and it was way ahead of its time in so many ways.
Oh, absolutely. Well, like so many things, we started. I've got so much to say, but we started listening to Pink Floyd a lot. I grew up with Pink Floyd. I love Pink Floyd. I love Dark Side of the Moon. I love The Wall. That he really either saw the future or had visions and wrote about them. It's amazing to hear his music now and look back and, like, that's 40 years ago, that he wrote about two suns, or he wrote about, the changing of the society, just very, very interesting. So I know we talked about Tool before, and,
yes,
all those songs that Maynard put out, same kind of thing.
Yep. Oh yeah, definitely. And you wonder if they did some of these when they were tripping, probably. But in some ways,
that opens up your mind, but yes.
Yeah, for sure. Things like ayahuasca does, and pot does too. It definitely opens up the chakras, and it's something I've never was big into, and I think it's just because my chakras are too open anyway. But I did try it a while back, and it was like, oh, I totally get it now. It just opens up your crown chakra totally wide and your third eye, and so you can do the same thing with meditation, really, but it just takes practice.
Yeah. And I'm a firm believer that anything that has grown in the ground is good for us, in any way that we have. Every ailment that we have, cancer, if it's diabetes can be found in the ground and in plants. All the cures for it. But, of course, we have big pharmacology companies that push, meds, and I wonder sometimes if, what's in those medications that, of course, changes our chemistry in our brain to see things differently. And so that's why they push the medication and push away from holistic other things that truly are better for us. And, they don't want us to know that, of course.
Right. Well, it truly, I do believe that we are being watched, as they say. I really do believe that there's multiple things going on, and there's different groups of beings that have different agendas going on and that are trying to influence us in different ways. And some of them, want us to be as, just
docile.
Yeah, as docile, keep us in the dark as much as possible, get us to do everything that's going to keep us good, obedient little worker bees, and just, not really getting the bigger picture. So, they infiltrate the religions, and the spirituality, and they get us going in the wrong direction on purpose. And not just that, but like with the whole medical industry, I think it's multi-purposed, in that part of it is just to keep you perpetually sick and create more conditions so you'll be on more drugs so that the companies make more money. But then also they don't want you enlightened. They don't want you understanding, going within, figuring out the big picture and understanding the nature of reality, that it takes you out of their matrix where they're either making money off of you, they're stealing your energy, they're stealing your life, they're stealing your time. And, they get us sidetracked into thinking, that, a perfect life is like the old American dream of, being married, having kids, having a house, working until you're 65, and then retiring and coming here to Florida and, enjoying the sun or whatever for 10 years before you die. But in reality, we should be doing things that are totally different. We should be exploring, each other, relationships, music, arts, sciences, and everything that's positive, and lifting up the whole society and lifting up the whole culture. And and so we're totally sidetracked on purpose.
Oh well, absolutely. I've never really watched TV, and like I said, I've completely stopped watching television, actually, and I've stopped watching movies. Movies are a big thing. I went to school for theater, so I love acting, but I've just stopped because of all the messages that subliminally are in it. It's like everything needs to be happy and go lucky and all this, and it's just, there's so much more going on around you, and that once you stop being distracted, you see it, you understand it, you feel it, and then your body sends you signals and messages that points you in the right direction. Once you stop having this influence of other things, medication, I don't take any kind of medication at all, and so all those things, actually, and I've stopped using my cell phone a lot. I don't use it anymore. So these things that always are on us, once you get away from those and get back to nature, the signs come to you, you see it, you look at things differently, you taste things. It's so weird. It's just a different thought process that somebody's not telling you, this is what you need to feel, this is what you need to taste, this is what you need to like, and this is what you need to go buy. You become your own self, and it's amazing to me, and I hope more and more people will wake up and see this and realize that we are being force-fed ideas and false history just to make us complacent with our surroundings so that we don't have an uproar.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why they fluoridate the water. They do, everything the Nazis did. And, some of the people we're talking about, some of the fires being started, and this is a little bit off track, by the chemtrails, because I know the chemtrails, for one, the original idea was it's just aluminum and barium, and they're trying to combat global warming. Because there still are people that don't think there's chemtrails, but there's very few, and now it's obvious. And I remember reading reports done where people had gotten samples, and they showed that there was biological agents, and there are some family members here, Evolutionary Energy Arts family members that have morgellons, which has been spread through the chemtrails.
I have it.
You too, yeah. There's multiple.
And I didn't know what that was until, of course, I stumbled on a video, because I kept on telling my partner, Doug, I was like, something's wrong. I was like, and I don't feel them through my body, I feel them in my mouth. Like, I kept on trying to pull out hair. Like, why do I have hair constantly in my mouth? And I kept on pulling. I mean, it's the weirdest feeling. And I stumbled on it, and I watched a report on it. I'm like, I have that. Like, that's exactly what I'm feeling. Like, I've told you this. Like, I can't get this out. It won't come out. There's nothing there, If that makes sense, but yeah.
Right. Oh, yeah. No, totally. And so, yeah, I do remember you telling me about your mouth, and it's you're not the only one, and you start to wonder how many people are affected by these things, because, I know so many people have Lyme's, and so many of these other ones, fibromyalgia, for instance, MS, there's so many of these newer diseases, the last 50 years or so that have come out, that a lot of this is due to what they're doing, what they're spraying on us, also what we end up ingesting, through the GMOs and Roundup, DDT, all the pesticides. It's a concerted effort, and then with all the fracking, you got to wonder what they're doing to the groundwater in those areas as well. It's almost like they want to not only just poison us, but also poison the planet.
Speaking of fracking, I live here, and I've actually worked in the fracking industry. I've worked in every industry you can imagine, because I just go around from job to job. I like fast-paced stuff. So the company that I worked for, we did wireline. We're a wireline specialist, where when they drilled the hole, our company put down the line and then ejected the dynamite to open up the shale to extract the gas. Was ours. But then they put in this chemical. They don't really extract it then. They leave it there. They put in this chemical. I don't even remember what it was. But it's a chemical that basically holds the gas there. So it's a chemical that's, shouldn't be in the earth, that's in the earth. And then they pump all of it full of salt water. So you'll see, like, my hometown is Waukegan, Texas, a little bitty town of less than 800 people up in East Texas, but a big business because of all the shell fracking that had gone on there. And the water trucks that would go by, just bringing out water and then putting in salt water down into the earth. So they probably really need to look into that. What exactly it was, because you just triggered the memory for me. But yeah, what they're doing is not really healthy. It's not healthy at all for anybody, especially Mother Earth.
Right, and so you were in the industry, so you're familiar with the process somewhat. And I remember I did read about it before when I was doing a different video, and started to go off studying it and looking at a list of the chemicals that they put in there. It's just like, are you kidding me? You don't want this stuff getting into the groundwater, the groundwater table. It's scary, because they're all cancer causing, for one, and then you have to think that
money distracts people. I mean, there's a guy that I grew up. He's the son of our art teacher. Again, I've graduated 50 people, and most of our classes were less than that. He's a millionaire because of something that he developed, or his company they use. I mean, money distracts people from the fact that they're going to kill us. These people are making more money than they've ever made in their lifetime. If they've, and so it's just an interesting thought that, well, let's throw money at these people. They won't cause a stink, and we'll still get money from all the gas and the oil that's being extracted, and it's a win-win situation for everybody in that situation. But in turn, it's really not.
Yeah,
No
and
amount
then
of money is gonna bring back your daughter, or no amount of money is gonna cure the fact that, or help the fact that we're killing the earth.
right, and then the cancer industry, because with a lot of these companies are tied together, and they all have other companies.
The medication, yeah.
Yeah, so it's the same thing, and we've seen that. We've seen it with politicians having these ties to these different companies, like Cheney comes to mind, Dick Cheney, who to me,
Halliburton.
yeah.
God.
There you go. And to me, God, I look at him and Rumsfeld, and automatically I was thinking Nazis. They just look like Nazis,
Yeah.
And but then, like I've said before, I'm not really a Democrat. I'm not a Republican either. Honestly,
Same here.
I really think the country was more founded on libertarian principles. Because I personally don't think we should be the world's policemen. Because we're really not the world's policemen, we're the corporate policemen.
No, definitely. What would we do without corporations? I wanted to touch on two different things really quick. I know you got to go take other callers, but I did drive by those apartments that I told you were empty. I don't know if you remember me telling you that they had at least two huge apartment complexes, and noticed we counted between these two apartment complexes, which are next door to each other. It's an older apartment complex and a brand new one. There were about 500 units. 500 units that there's still nobody in. They just started re-renting them, I think about 2 weeks ago when we went by there. They were just starting to get tenants in. But that's at least, 500, if you say 2 people minimum per apartment that was rented. That's about 1,000 people in our little area here that were somehow evacuated and never came back.
Yeah, so to bring everybody else up to what we're talking about, Harvey, and just the fact that are there people missing still, and if so, where are they? Because as Ann is saying, these are like apartment buildings where everybody got evacuated, and then nobody knows where these people are now.
Nobody came back. They had to throw out all the people's stuff. Like we've driven by there several times because they were crews just throwing away furniture, everything. These people weren't back. They did not come back.
Makes you wonder.
So like I said, and it was, like I said, it had housing. I mean, it was government supplied housing.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder.
It sure does. Very, very creepy and scary stuff to contemplate. And, that is happening now on a global scale like we have never seen. So, who's to say what's happening, and what's going on? And then, I don't know if it was you and me talking about it or if it was somebody else that we were talking about some of these non-human beings, like, say, the Draco, that might actually be harvesting the bodies for whatever reason.
No, it wasn't me, but that's an interesting thought. You don't know, and what if our leaders have to pay a certain debt to a different alien society, and that's the way they're doing? You never know.
Yeah,
we don't know so much. I mean, there's so much literally that we don't know, that they're keeping us in the dark because we are pawns for them in some way or another.
Yeah, literally hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people go missing every year. And there are many sources, many whistleblowers in the UFO community that have said straight out that it's part of an agreement that we've made going back to the 50s that we'll let them take some people in return for technology.
Wow. I believe that. People thought I was crazy when I said, do you not see, like, in the 50s where we were and where we are today in technology, is that something had to have happened. Something had to have happened to brought us out of that dark age. No, it's just the technology and where it went. I'm like, no, there's no way that the 40 years, 50 years between now and then that we've gained this much knowledge. There's no way.
And then what we really have is
intervention from some other side.
And what they really have is going to blow our minds as it slowly gets leaked out to us over the next 6 years. It's just going to be a slow trickle of these things that are going to just blow our mind.
It's going to. I hate to get worse. It's just going to be different. and you got to learn to adapt to it and open yourself up to your families and friends, and hopefully they adapt with you. That's
Yes.
how it's going to have to be. So.
Yep.
But anyway, I'll let you go. Have fun. Take care of everybody out there, and hopefully no more Oregon earthquakes because my babies are out there. That's all. I have my friends. You know, all my good friends and my best friends are out there too, and it scares me. But you know, as we all try to take care of our children, that's my biggest concern is them being out there. So.
Well, our prayers are with them and with you, Ann.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Take care. Namaste. So that was a great call from Ann from Texas, and she has so much family off in the Oregon area where all the earthquakes are going. And we'll obviously pray for the best out there as well. But do give a call in if you want to get a call through. You could do it right now. We have an open line. So many things to talk about. There's just so much going on right now. It's hard to keep up with it. And like this morning when I was first I already had some things kind of lined up to talk about, but then when I opened up and just checked out everything else that was happening, was like, okay, well, I'll have to save this for later, and I'll have to save that for later, because there's just so much to talk about. And I know I can't go into, an hour and a half video. That would be asking too much. But it's just so wild with everything that we're seeing. And more people are waking up to the bigger picture because, I personally believe that there's no doubt there are extraterrestrials among us, watching us. They've been here since before we were here. I do think there's interdimensionals as well, multidimensionals. It's not so clear cut. There is all sorts of life here, right now, as well as in all other dimensions all around us, and then also out throughout this galaxy and many other galaxies, because the universe is all about, it's about life, is what it's about, and ultimately we're all consciousness exploring this 3D creation, and consciousness is exploring other dimensions as well, and as above so below, which is so true and such a powerful axiom. Somebody else was out there talking about the emerald tablets at Thoth, and that's a great place to delve into and start getting some idea of some of the ancient knowledge. The Kabbalion is a great book as well. There's so many awesome hermetic books. I was having a great discussion with a friend that I feel is one of the most knowledgeable people I've met. And I just said, so it seems to me like your worldview is either Gnostic or Buddhist. It's one of those two, not to pin you down, but somewhere in there. And she was like, yeah, it's definitely a combination of the two is what I see reality as, but more along the Gnostic lines. And if you guys don't know what Gnosticism is, I definitely would encourage you to check it out, because it was persecuted like hardly anything has been persecuted throughout history. Hello, caller. You are on the air. Who do we have with us now?
This is Tom. I'm in Colorado.
Hi, Tom. How you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing all right, man. I like your show. I've been on it one other time. But I got a weird story that involves you.
Okay, well, do share.
Okay, I live in southern Colorado. I live in the woods. I'm kind of a loner. I stay out of civilization pretty much. But I go. My sister's got like a timeshare in a small town, Salida, Colorado, and I go there every third week. I stay for a couple of days. Well, this is where you come in. It was really weird. I had an opportunity to go from that house to a different house, like a ranch, 40-acre place, and I go over there, and we're dropping off some branches or something in their yard or in their ranch. and there's two women there that I've met. One of them one time, and so I walked up, and we're in the middle of nowhere. I do not socialize hardly at all, and we started talking about the internet, and the first thing they said was, "Have you ever heard of Evolutionary Arts?" And I said, "Yeah, a guy named Michael, right?" And we all looked at each other, and I thought, this is strange, because I mean, you don't, like right now you got 129 people watching, but like 25,000 people following you, right, or somewhere in there.
Yeah, I think it's like 27,000 on a typical day. About 40,000 views.
All right, I'm subscribed to you, and both the girls were subscribed to you.
Oh wow, that's pretty wild.
It blows my mind, because you got to understand that I'm not very social at all. I live in the woods. I stay away from people, and I got on that subject talking about you, and I was like, well, when I talked to Michael on a show, I was telling about going into the next level, and but it was so bizarre to meet two people that knew who you were and were subscribed to the same channel. And both of them, like me, I got 12 subscriptions, like MB333, those type of websites. And they had the same. They had 4 of the 12 subscriptions, and they had about 12 each too.
Wow. That's really pretty wild. So that's a great start to a little Evolutionary Energy Arts family group right there.
It was great, man. But we all looked at each other, because like how the setting, you got to believe that we're out in the middle of nowhere on this 40-acre ranch. There's no cars, there's no people, and I don't see any people. This was a weird coincidence. So anyway, I thought that was pretty bizarre. And her husband, one of the new ladies that I met, was out on a walk, and he came back, and he was more like you, more trained in the mind than I am. I would consider myself just getting into going into the next level.
Right. Well, that's we're all on different parts.
Back, and he was really an interesting guy, also, and that was pretty weird. But what I wanted to talk about kind of is angels. When I've been going to this level, would you like to talk about that?
Oh, sure. I love talking about angels.
Okay, so I got this angel that gave me a lesson, and so I went through some healing entities. I told you this on the one show, and they kind of went into my body and kind of were using their energy, came into my body, and then we ran out of time. But I will talk about now meeting my angel that watches over me. And so I went through the healing entities and female entity, and then I'm at this level, and I'm running out of energy where I got to come back again. And but I'm the two healing entities take me on to my what is now my angel, and was my angel, but I didn't know it at the time. So I'm in this level, and I walk up to him, and he looks like a bush of energy. I describe it as a bush because I don't know how to describe it, but he's definitely male type energy, and he's got two branches coming out of the side, kind of going down at a 45-degree angle, and he is a stout bush or stout energy, and he's like a dark purple, And so I walk up to him. I'm been handed off by these two healing entities to him, and as I'm walking towards him, I just started smiling, and I'm like, oh, what is going on here? But it's all friendly, it's all nice. I want to go to him, basically. And as I get closer, I'm kind of like giggling.
Yeah.
And this was just like a weird experience. So we're kind of with our minds going back and forth, getting to know one another. And then he goes, well, do you want to know what I can do? And I said, sure, I'm game. What can you do? So I'm just going to describe it as the energy bush starts raising its limbs or energy things, and I started laughing. And when he had his branches like halfway out, I was just like laughing at it. But when he put his arms all the way up, I was hysterically laughing. I had to tell, stop. I can't do this no more. So that's how he worked. And he was teaching me a lesson. I had to give up TV. I had to stop watching the news. And every time that I would watch the news and go, hey, they're going to catch one of these dirty rats and they're going to jail and all this stuff, I'd get into some of the TV programs that are going that direction, and they're going to catch the dirty rat. Well, he wouldn't let me do it. So every time that I'd want to watch one of those shows, I'd just start laughing. And I couldn't do it. So after about a week, I just had to turn off everything. And so I called on DirecTV and I said, I want everything shut off, nothing. And so that's the lesson. So I call him the Laughing Angel. And he hangs out with me all the time. And he guards me, kind of. He's a protective angel. I've been born in another time before this time. And I have a mission that I must complete, and he's guarding me, and I hope I can complete my mission.
Well, I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will, because you have help right there, and that's a beautiful thing. And knowing when you have help on the other side, it gives you more courage.
It does, and he taught me a lesson that don't get too involved with the argument or whatever, because there's a lot of deception there, and so you pray, and I study the word a couple hours a day, and so I just, that lesson was a very good lesson to learn about getting away from too much into what the negative people are trying to make you think, and that's what steals your energy, in my opinion.
Yes.
The big thing is when you meet some of these, when you go into the next level, they're different. Some of them are different than us. Some of them are the same as us. The light blue people that I've seen, or the blue screen I call it, they're just like us. And when I met people at that level, they were just people, and they told me, I said, you guys are like marvelous. And he said, no, we're just like you. Don't make us marvelous. You're just like us, and we're just like you. But these other entities that I met, like my guardian angel, they're different, and I don't know how to describe that. But so I think this whole racism thing that has kind of come back into the country when it was almost gone is what the evil people are trying to get us, to keep us from going on to the next level, because I believe that you have to accept different types of not only people but entities also for us to graduate to the next level.
I think that's a wonderful, wise statement, because so many people are just not going to be ready to see something that's not human. And unfortunately, so many of them are just going to automatically label everything a demon. Anything that they can't understand. And, there might be some beings that to us look pretty, not so attractive, but they might be beautiful, energetically, and where their hearts are, and, where they are emotionally.
They have a lot to give to us, I feel.
Exactly.
There's some that want, like the healing entities that I met, they love helping you. So I think we got to be kind of open-minded. We can't hate somebody because of their skin. We can't hate somebody because there are different cultures than us or something. All in all, we have to kind of get together, and when you hate different groups of people, it stifles us from getting to that level or the awakening, because it's just, I don't know how to describe it. It's that you can't go to that level if you're that negative.
Exactly. Yeah, so if you're living out of fear and all you see is just simply, things to scare you everywhere, as far as, other beings, that's not going to allow you to go to the next level. So you have to, cultivate the love, cultivate the compassion, even for those, that maybe are under darker influences right now, in the hope that they won't be in the future. And, don't let anybody pull you down. So you'll find people that are always trying to, get you into an argument, try to pull you down, try to steal your energy. And we must not fall into their, mistake of trying to, bring somebody down. You always want to build it up. And I was talking about the Celestine Prophecy book before. There's also a movie. It was kind of cheaply done, but still, it's worth watching. There's one scene there where they're talking about just simply giving your love and compassion to another person, and in the movie you could actually see the energy exchange between one of the main characters and this little girl, and they're just shifting this positive energy back from one to the other, and it's building their energy and their auras, and they're both going higher and higher vibrationally because of the compassion and the love that they're sharing. And so people that are full of, really what it is when people reach out in negativity like that, it's really because they're unhappy with themselves on the inside, and they know that they have a lot to work on, but they don't want to look at it. And so they try to steal other people's energy to basically make them feel better. And so we can't fall into that trap, and we just simply let it go, have compassion, have forgiveness, and not allow ourselves to be pulled down. As I know you don't allow yourself to be pulled down. I can hear that in your voice.
No, I gotta keep going. Like I said, I'm kind of on a mission. My mission is that I think that I'm being protected for is that in the Bible it says you'll be brought up on trial to speak against the Antichrist, but you're not supposed to speak. You're supposed to let the Holy Spirit speak through you. And that's what my mission is. And so that's what I started concentrating on. And I thought, well, this will be an easy mission. All I got to do is keep my mouth shut and let the Holy Spirit speak through me. But the Laughing Angel had to make sure that I wasn't polluted with any of that negative thinking. Does that make sense to you?
Oh yeah, most definitely. Yeah, you must guard against it.
The Laughing Angel was like a big help to me in that way. So yeah, I gotta. I just don't like on the racism thing, can you imagine like a football game without any races?
Right?
I mean, even the most prejudiced guy, if his football team were trotted out there and there was no people of different races like on your football team, what kind of a game would that be?
Well, you know, the thing is, it's just realizing the bigger picture too, because if we've all really lived before, lived multiple lives, then we probably have come back as a woman, we've probably come back as a guy, we've probably come back as somebody of one race, of another, a different nationality. So really none of that matters at all. You know, it really doesn't matter at all when you see people as, you know, as really the essence of what they are. And we are all energy ultimately. You know, we're all basically the sum total of all the frequency and vibration that we're holding at any one moment. That's what we are. And so we could change in a moment, and we could lift ourselves up into a higher position at any moment. And we could also, unfortunately, pull ourselves downwards as well. So we must, you know, always guard against that.
I totally agree with you, Michael. Yeah, that's really a good way of looking at that. And you really do have to make an effort.
Yes.
Because it can bring you. It can bring you down.
Yeah, every single day you must really be aware of it and pay attention every single day. So, as the other caller, KJ, was talking about being a Christian, you know, unfortunately in this world there's so many people that think that they could simply go get baptized and then, you know, do whatever they want and, you know, lie, swear, cheat, you know, do evil acts, and then just because they have said some words, they're going to be fine and it's not going to come back at them. And then, you know, you have other people that might not have any one religion they're following, but they are truly Christians in that they follow what Christ taught. And so they are actually vibrating at a much higher level. They are full of love and compassion and non-judgment, as opposed to the one that basically says that I am this, but then they don't change. You know, they don't try to.
Or they use it to, they actually use it to do no good.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, they're saying they're something that they're not. But remember, Jesus says, "Many will come in my name, but are actually of the synagogue of Satan." So, Jesus warned us of that many times, that there are many false prophets will come, and that means people too that say they're Christians. I mean,
yes.
They go to church or whatever, but are they learning anything? I don't know. But I'm not going to judge that. But I think that they'll have to answer for that themselves.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and it's written, you know, judge not lest ye be judged. So all we could do is just simply, you know, pray for those.
Pray that they get a laughing angel or something like that.
Yeah, there you go.
I got a story about the laughing angel, man, and this is pretty good. So the laughing angel's hanging out with me, and I go a couple weeks, I turn off all the TV and all the nonsense and everything, and now I'm thinking right, and he's got me going in the right direction. So I live in a small town, and there's a little grocery store. I'm not in a town, I live in the woods, but I go to a town to shop, and I thought, I'm going to ask him if he wants to go along with me to town. And so when he comes close to me, I just smile, and I'm just happy. But so I just told him, you got to kind of keep calm because I got to drive. So I go to this town, and I just wanted to see if he would make a reaction with other people besides me. And so I'm walking to the store, and I'm looking at something like bowls or something, and the one lady said, "Do you think they could?" And she just was smiling like crazy at me. And she goes, "Do you think you could microwave with this?" And I said, "Yeah, I got a couple of those. I bought them last week. They're great and everything." And at the end of the conversation, she was laughing like crazy. And I said, well, I gotta go now. And so I go out to the parking lot. Here she is. And she came up and gave me like some, what did she give me? Like sweet potatoes or something. She said, cooked peas, and that was just a weird experience. So I said to the Laughing Angel, I was wondering if I could take him into like a nursing home or something. How about that? Would that be cool?
Yes, definitely.
So that's kind of like a neat thing. So I encourage all people to try to get there, man. Don't give up. It's a cool place to go. Sometimes just to meditate, just get into that nice, easy, peaceful level. Just keep trying. It's not nothing weird or anything. As a matter of fact, it just makes you feel good when you get there, and it's a little peaceful place for you. All right, Michael, I'm going to sign off. It was nice talking to you. I'm praying for you and your channel, and I'm praying for all those people out there. Let's start lifting each other up, and the big events are going to come, and we'll get there.
We will. Well, thank you so much for your call, brother. It's always a pleasure.
Good night, Michael.
Take care. So that was a great call from John. Lots of things covered. What a synchronicity that he meets 2 other subscribers. That's really pretty wild. Yeah, on a typical day, anywhere between maybe 35 and 50,000 views is what the channel does typically. So to get 3 people in one area is pretty amazing. Hello, caller. You're on the air. Who do we have with us? Okay. Well, I guess they didn't want to be on the air. But yeah, that was a good call. Many good points, and you could tell he is a beautiful, lighthearted being for sure. And I've met that with a lot of people that are really, truly, as we would say, touched by the Spirit. They're just happy. And it's a beautiful thing. And, they're just simply a blessing. Thank you for calling. And who do we have with us?
I must have got disconnected. This is Kyle.
Oh, hey. How you doing, Kyle?
Good, how you doing?
Doing good. What did you want to talk about tonight?
I was wondering what your opinions are on Judaism and the difference between Judaism and Christianity. Do you think anything's really different about it, or?
Well, it's such a big. There's such a big, wide swath of different forms of Judaism and Christianity. Christianity, especially, it's so. There's so many different forms of it. But if you're talking about the actual teachings of Christ, then it's something that is really pretty simple. It's all about love and compassion and non-judgment and empathy, as we see in his teachings, like the Beatitudes. And I mean, there's so many beautiful teachings, and then there's so many more that are not in the Bible, that are in the Dead Sea Scrolls and in the Nag Hammadi, and going into some of the Gnostic texts and the Pseudepigrapha, which, some of the non-canonical books. But I mean, there are differences, but when we get to the core, it honestly, everything is supposed to be about love. That's really what it kind of boils down to. So it's religion, ultimately, in my opinion, religion is basically man-made, and it's really spirituality that you get to actually touch the divine. It's through that going within. So I do find it so interesting that people that will take the time to go inwards, and you're not going to really touch the higher realms by using your left side of the brain, the analytical side of the brain. You could find things that will give you logical arguments, whether it's an archaeological dig and there's evidence of this, or evidence of that here, or whether it's just simply things that sound pleasing to your mind. or that you can, grab a hold of, no matter what it is. Ultimately, we each have to go in and actually take the time to do the work to still the mind, because if you notice that, most of our thoughts, like 80% of what we think all day, it's like the 80-20 rule, is basically the same 20% of, all the thoughts you're going to have on any one given day. So we tend to have just this tape recorder going in our mind constantly. And amazing things happen when we learn how to shut that tape recorder off. And we'll get glimpses of a reality that is much bigger and more expansive than what we are in at, on a typical day, if we are not actually doing practices like meditation and qigong and yoga, things that actually still our mind and get us to a point where we could be a little bit more receptive. Because again, we're energy, everything is energy, everything is frequency and vibration. And so if we have that tape going all the time, we can't take in anything from anywhere else and anywhere new. And it really limits our ability to gain these insights. And am I giving you any answers there? That you're still with us? Kyle, still there? Well, we lost Kyle. But anyway, as we were saying, it's really about, we need to go within to really find the answers. And so, is there a difference in Judaism and Christianity? Yeah, there's differences in ritual, there's differences in beliefs, somewhat, for sure. And that's what you have in any of the religions. Although ultimately, it's all about love when you get down to it, and compassion. And that's really what we have to embrace, is the love and the compassion. And to get beyond the labels, because really, what do labels do? Labels actually do nothing but separate us when you think about it. So as soon as you label something, now whether it's Republican, Democrat, whether it's Christian, Jew, Muslim, Hindu, atheist, whatever it is, Wiccan, when you start labeling, we start separating ourselves. But now that's not really our fault, because this is not the society that we've been brought into. And as I've said before, we have been conditioned from birth to basically conform to the society. And so now we're in a newer period of time, and we're heading into a totally new era. And so it's our chance now to basically decondition ourselves. Get rid of all this that we've been just pounded into our system, all the brainwashing that they're giving to us. Start realizing that simply the great truth is, I am. What other truth do you have to have besides I am? And that's Moses at the burning bush. It's basically, when he asked God, who should I say sent me? I am. It's that self-realization, the consciousness, and we're all consciousness, and each one of us is just a slightly different version of consciousness. And that's beautiful, because variety is the spice of life, is it not? As much as I love Indian food, hey, I want Italian sometimes, maybe some Thai food. It's all good. And so each one of us is a little different. And this is done purposefully. So in my view, this is how the source, how Creator explores its creation in a myriad of different ways, slightly different individuations, but ultimately all going straight back to source. So all of us, in my point of view, we're all part of source. And no one person is any higher than any other person. And it doesn't matter what color, nationality, race, creed, species, alien, extraterrestrial, interdimensional, we're all basically pieces of source exploring source's creation. And so that's basically my take on it, and that's how I view it. And so if we all are that, shouldn't we just love each other? And shouldn't we just accept each other for what we are? Instead of always trying to think that one version is better than another, or seeing one as different from another. I think we would have a much better world if we view it in that light than the world that we've been born into. But we'll do our best to change this world and to manifest that better world. And as Christ said, the kingdom lies within you. Thank you guys for joining me again, and I'll see you guys next Tuesday, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Once again, my friends. Namaste as always. Thank you for showing up and sharing. God bless, my friends. That was good.
Really good.
That felt good, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I loved all the colors.
Yeah, that was good.
So when I was typing, somebody kept on wondering what you were typing.
I know.
Michael's typing again. Me.
It's like
Oh, yeah, right. Who was it that was making the comment, though?
Vereen, I guess.
What's her name?
I don't know, Vereen. I've
Oh,
seen them.
Vereen. Oh, yeah, I've never seen him before.
I've seen them before, but that John guy's a sweet guy, isn't he?
So sweet. His laugh was just infectious.
It was. So yeah.
So he's living in the woods.